What's going on, everybody? We are going to take a look at the State of the Union. Making sure my levels are right.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm just in time. Look at that. Made it in time for the President Biden. All right. Not saying I did that. Like, if you saw me do that, you probably would have thought that I'd be like, yeah, Biden. But no. But I'll get into that. I'll talk about some things when they're kind of at some lulls. See if I can't fill a little space. Lots of clapping, lots of handshakes. That's the whole political thing, right? Shaking hands, kissing babies. Got Chuck Schumer right behind Biden. Yeah, very long entrance. A lot of pomp and circumstance going on over here. You got Speaker McCarthy up there at the, I don't know what it's called. The thing. The tall thing. Podium. Not a podium. It's more robust. They love him. Do you hear the roar of the crowd? We got Kamala. I don't know where she's been, but she's here. You see her, she exists. We got Joe Manchin over here. That dude. I think that's really a big part of this. And no joke. Just making sure that we all know that these people exist. All right, we're at 9:06. 6 minutes in. I wonder if anybody's hands get sore from all of this. Because you know some people are going to fade out. They're giving the obligatory golf claps. The people that are trying to get in super close, they're going to clap a little harder. You got the justices. Very curious to see what he's going to say. I mean, obviously it's going to be, yeah, I'm doing awesome. Things are great. The State of the Union is strong. I don't know. What do you think? You know he's going to say it. Do you agree with that sentiment? So I kind of threw myself together. So forgive me. I'm just going to make sure I'm good for all of you fine people out there. Take on this undertaking. I got to look good. So what do we have? What's happened recently? We have the Chinese balloons, the observation balloons that everybody's been talking about. Wonder if that's going to make it into here, and how he's going to try to spin that. Ukraine's going to be huge, but there's a lot of people that are in full support mode for Ukraine, and listen, the Ukrainians need the help. However, I mean, it's a bigger conversation than just have the one U.S. send in all of the money. I mean, as far as Ukraine goes, how did we supplied more money than all other countries combined? How should that be? How should that be? Shouldn't there be a little more collaboration going on for the Ukrainian effort? But
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. You can smile. It's okay.
You can smile.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's not a great way to
Please.
start it out. It really isn't.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The first part of this is just going to be nothing but shout-outs. Hey, he's on his phone. Why? He's on...
By the
You
way,
gotta be
Chief
on your
Justice, I
phone?
may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home. Got to work something out here. Members of the Cabinet, leaders of our
all
military,
in the
Chief
timing.
Justice, Associate Justice, and retired Justice of the Supreme Court, and to you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
I mean, it's kind of what he's supposed to do, but at the same time, you see this clear divide with half of the room standing, half of the room not.
Speaker, I don't want
They
to
don't
ruin your
like
reputation,
each other.
but I look
And
forward
it's-
to working with you.
They talk
And I
about
want
the
to
dysfunction as a
congratulate
joke.
the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
I'm not putting him down. I don't really know. I haven't looked into
He
Hakeem
won in spite of the
Jeffries.
fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations
It's
to the
like he's,
longest-serving
trying to
leader in
use
the
that as
history of the
momentum,
United
right?
States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch?
Where are you, Mitch? What are these? This is so dumb. Like, he's putting him down one moment, like in the press, saying that
Congratulations
they
to
should...
Chuck Schumer, another,
I don't know.
you know,
I don't know.
another
This
term
is just
as
all a
as
game.
Senate
That's all it
minority
is.
leader.
It's a game.
You know, I think you. Only this time you have a slightly bigger majority, Mr.
It's a
Leader.
show.
You're in a majority
That's right.
leader.
That's what it is.
About
It's
that
a
much
show.
bigger?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi.
I know that there are a lot of you that do not like what he just said. I am one of them.
Folks,
greatest ever?
The story of America is
Ever.
a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it. Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs. More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years because of you all, because of the American people.
When you look at numbers like
2
that,
years ago,
metrics, you have to look at other information. You just can't take that as, oh, this
2
is great
years
because
ago,
this one metric went up.
COVID had shut down, our businesses were closed,
Quality of
our
jobs.
schools were robbed of so much, and
Quality of
today,
pay.
COVID no longer controls our lives. And 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threats in the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
Look at half the room not stand up. This is all so dumb.
As we gather here tonight, we're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word.
I would believe
and I
it.
mean
You're
this.
the president.
Possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong.
What are you?
Yes, we disagreed plenty.
That
And yes,
that is the
there were
joke
times
of the
when
night.
Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe. You came together to pass once-in-a-generation infrastructure law, building bridges connecting our nation and our people. We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits.
The infrastructure
And in fact,
bill that Joe Manchin sliced and diced along with Kirsten Sinema, whatever. Who cares? I don't care about what it means.
it's important.
But it's like that could have done so much more.
And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president. From reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well.
Find
I think
consensus. The things, granted,
folks,
on the surface, the things he just said are great.
you all are as
in their
informed
own
as I am, but I
respect.
think the people sent us a clear message.
But there's so much more that
Fighting for
needs
the
to be
sake of
done. That
fighting.
is just kind of being
Power
ignored.
for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. And along the way, something else we lost: pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do. To build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down.
The
Because when
campaign
the middle class
speech,
does
here it
well,
comes.
the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well.
Bottom up and
we
the
all
middle
do
out.
well.
Now, I heard it mentioned that this is probably going to be his version
I know a
of
lot
an
of you always
announcement
kid me
running
for always quoting
for
my dad, but my
re-election
dad used to
in a
say,
way,
Joey, a job's
like
about a lot
encoded.
more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, folks,
Pride can't buy
so let's look
eggs.
at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low.
It's at a 50-year
Near
low.
record,
Sure. Tell,
a near record
tell the
unemployment.
people at Google. Tell the people at all these tech companies that are
Near
getting laid
record
off.
unemployment
The
for
tens of
black and
thousands of
Hispanic
people that are
workers.
getting laid off.
We've already created, your help,
They do not feel that way.
800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Folks,
Now, look at this.
inflation.
Wait for it to get back to Biden.
Inflation
All of
has
that
been a global
pleasantry and all
problem
those
because
smiles.
the pandemic
Look who's not clapping over
disrupted
here.
our supply
This
chains,
dude, Kevin
and
McCarthy.
Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine
I can't stand
disrupted
about all this stuff.
energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine. But we're better positioned than any country on earth right now. But we have more to do. But here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation
gas
is coming
prices-
down. Not
gas
fast enough,
prices
but
are
coming
down,
down.
but, you
Inflation
know,
has fallen every
not
month
everything.
for the
All right.
last 6 months.
What he just
take-home
said
pay
about
has
inflation.
gone up. Additionally, Over the last 2
If
years,
the,
a
if the
record
rise of
10
inflation is
million
slowing, that
Americans
means it's still
applied to
increasing.
start new
By the
businesses.
way,
10 million.
don't let them fool you.
And by the
Inflation
way,
can still go up, but if it's not going up as
every
quickly,
time-
they're always going to tout it as some big thing that's happening. I don't necessarily
every
believe
time
that it's
someone
going
starts
down.
a small business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared with you a story of American genius and possibilities. Semiconductors, small computer chips the size of a fingerprint that power everything, from cell phones to automobiles and so much more. These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to
Let's
make
get it straight.
40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're
Yes.
down to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off. So did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act.
Oh, yeah, because if you don't do that, I mean, that's like doing something just for common good of survival. If you don't pass something like that, you're going to get dusted, or not dusted necessarily, but you don't
I know I've
want
been
China to
criticized for
up their
saying this, but I'm
game
not
in the
changing
chip
my view.
department. That's
We're going to make sure the supply chain for America begins in America. The supply chain begins in America. We've already created.
okay. He's got some claps, a few claps
We've already
from the
created
Republican side at the bottom of the screen.
800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country, throughout not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of Columbus,
What's a few?
Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories
Okay.
on 1,000 acres, literally a field of dreams. It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment.
Oh, he's got a little,
7,000 construction
he's got a
jobs,
little oomph.
3,000
He found a little
jobs
bit of energy.
in those factories once they're finished. They call them factories. Jobs paying an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree. Jobs, because we work together, these jobs where people don't have to leave home to search for opportunity. And it's just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. So much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000 permanent jobs and the factories that are going to be built. Talk to mayors and governors, Democrats and Republicans, and they'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland.
All right.
But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world.
I did a thing, a 1 minute video on the state of the schools in
As you
Mississippi.
all know,
It's
we used
ridiculous.
to be number one in the world in infrastructure. We've sunk to 13th in the world. The United
Where
States
it's like
of
you
America,
have a shortage of
13th
3,000
in the world
teachers.
in
They're
infrastructure,
so
modern
they're
infrastructure.
so
But now we're coming back
short on
because
teaching
we came
staff.
together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure
It
law.
creates a hopeless
The largest
situation for all the
investment in
kids that
infrastructure
live
since
there.
President
That's
Eisenhower's
probably
interstate highway
one of the
system.
biggest problems right now, and it's not going to get any time up here. West Boulevard High School was the high school that I
Already
referenced
we've
in the
funded
video.
over 20,000
But
projects.
there's so many schools
including
across the
major
country that
airports
are
from
just
Boston to
in
Atlanta
dire
to Portland.
straits that don't
Projects
have
that are gonna
any
put
type
thousands
of
people to work rebuilding our
arts
highways,
programs.
our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports,
support
clean water,
beyond just the
high-speed internet,
reading,
all
writing,
across
arithmetic.
America.
You need more
Urban,
than that
rural,
in
tribal.
order to develop
And
people
folks,
to have them
we're
grow
just
and have
getting
fulfilling
started.
lives. But
We're
if you
just
don't want
getting
people to
started.
grow, if you just want people to be laborers in some factory or plant somewhere, not
And I
saying
mean this
that that's
sincerely.
bad. I'm just saying that should not
I wanna thank
automatically
my
be the
Republican
future for
friends who
everybody
voted
that
for the
comes out of
law.
a certain area of the
And my
country.
Republican friends
but
who voted against it as well. But I'm
all
still,
I'm saying
I
is
still get
schools
asked to
are
fund the
in
projects
poor
in
shape.
those districts as well. But don't
There
worry.
is no reason
promised
why
I'd be a
that should not
president
be
for
a
all
huge
Americans.
part of this,
We'll
if
fund
not
these
one of the
projects.
main parts.
And I'll see you at the groundbreaking.
But, you know, I mean, the chips, you know,
Look,
that's important too.
this
Got to get a
law-
foothold on that. Got to get a foothold on the raw materials in order
This
to
law
build
will
the
further
chips.
unite all
And
of
that's one
America.
area where the United States
Projects
has been
like
lacking,
Grand
where the
Spence
Biden
Bridge
administration
in
has
Kentucky
been
over
picking
the
up.
Ohio River.
You know, you're
Built
going,
60 years
but
ago.
it involves basically
Badly needed
pillaging
repairs. One of the nation's
raw
most
materials
congested
from
freight
Africa.
routes,
Let's just
carrying
get that
$2
straight.
billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio
But
River. And folks, we've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans, and from both states.
he keeps
to
saying
deliver
that
a
like
commitment of
it's going to be the
$1.6
Republicans that matter
billion
that go.
dollars for this project. And while I was there, I met a young woman named Sarah, who's here tonight. I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well, Sarah, for 30 years,
These stage pieces.
for 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as the Cowboys in the Sky. The folks who
Yeah,
built,
super pumped on that one.
built
Cowboys of the
Cincinnati
sky.
skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge.
Okay, he's
God
so happy.
bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're
Everybody,
also building.
people
We're
are
building back
clapping, people are
pride.
smiling. He's happy.
Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America.
That is important.
400,000 school and child care centers. So every child in America can drink the water instead of having permanent damage to their brain. Look,
Yes, Joe.
We're
Every
making sure-
American should have clean drinking water
we're making sure
and not permanent damage to their
that
brain from
every
the water.
community,
Can
every
he just not
community in
run for
America has
president?
access to affordable high-speed internet. No parent should have to drive by
Look,
McDonald's parking
I-
lot to help them do their homework online.
I
with
don't
their
want
kids.
any of the people
which
that are
many
probably going to run
thousands
for
were doing
president to
across
be
the country.
president. I think we can do
And when
a
we do these
billion times
projects-
better.
And again, I get criticized for
Billion
this, but I make
with
no
B.
excuses for it. We're going to buy American. We're going to buy American. Folks,
Got to buy American. That should make everybody stand up.
and it's totally
They're not
consistent
standing
with
up.
international trade
He
rules.
just said, "Buy American."
America's
They're
been the
not
law
standing
since
up. Why are the
1933.
Republicans not
But
standing
for
up?
too long,
What is
past
wrong
administrations,
with people?
Democrat and Republican,
What is the problem
have
with
fought
that
to
they're
get
going to
around
find?
it. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards that require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, duh. That's the way it should be.
Made in
Look at
America.
them. They're finally getting up. Not even all of them.
I mean it.
God. People are just. They can't even be
Lumber.
bothered. You got Joe Manchin
Glass,
standing up.
drywall, fiber optic cable. And on my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten. Amid the economic upheaval of the past 4 decades, too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them. You wonder whether the path even exists anymore for your children to get ahead without having to move away. Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back. Because choices we made in the last several years. You know, this is, in my view, a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name happens if your spouse gets cancer, or your child gets deadly ill, or something happens to you.
Are you going to
What are you going
propose
to get money to pay for those
a
medical
Medicare
bills?
for all, a
Or you're gonna have to
universal
sell
health
the house
plan,
or
Joe?
Try to get a second mortgage on it.
Please
I
do.
get it.
If you do,
I get it.
I don't know. I don't
The
know.
Inflation
you might...
Reduction Act that I signed into law,
No, okay.
we're
no,
taking
that's not
on
what he's
powerful
talking about.
interests
He's not
to bring
talking
healthcare
about that.
costs down so you can sleep better at night.
Everybody should be
more
able to sleep
security.
better at night because they should.
You know, we
rest-
pay
be-
more for
be-
prescription
be
drugs
comfortable
than
and
any
be happy at the
nation
fact that
in the
they'll
world.
have
Let me say it again.
not insurance,
We
health
pay
care.
more for prescription drugs than any major nation on earth.
He's not going to
For
tackle
example,
the main problem.
1 in 10
the problem
Americans
is not
has
health care.
diabetes.
The problem is
Many of you in
insurance.
this chamber
You don't
do, and in
need
the audience. But
insurance.
every day, millions need
like
insulin
insurance
to control their
companies. You need
diabetes
the concept.
so
But
they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over
Medicare
100
for
years.
all program.
The guy who
Everybody
invented it
has
didn't even patent it
care.
because he wanted it to be available for
Why
them.
is that such a hard thing?
It costs the drug companies roughly $10 a
They've been,
vial to
they've been
make that
talking about
insulin.
the drug companies, the
Packaging and all,
pharmaceutical
you may get
companies
up to
forever, and about
$13.
getting things
But
lowered.
Big Pharma
How many State of
has
the
been unfairly
Union
charging people
addresses
hundreds of
have
dollars,
talked about
$400 to $500 a
insulin
month,
or just whatever?
making record profits. Not anymore.
So that means
Not
it won't be talked
anymore.
about in the next State of the Union if you're president. It won't be an issue. Making a recording right now. It's 2023 State of the Union. Prescription drugs, big pharma, no more gouging.
Many
It's done.
things that we did
Over.
are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed a law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors on Medicare.
Okay. All right.
People are just finding out.
That's just one thing, though.
I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm
Everybody
getting.
needs insulin. That needs
Look,
insulin.
there
You
are
can't
millions
go
of other
without that
Americans
stuff.
who do not or are not on Medicare,
But could it be
including
better?
200,000 young people with type 1 diabetes who need this insulin to stay alive.
Yeah.
Let's finish the job this time. Let's cap the cost of insulin for everybody at $35.
Why not do even better? Oh, look, half the room hates that. Who
Folks.
out there? If
And Big Pharma's still going to do very well, I promise you
I
all.
need to see if
I promise you they're going to do very well.
who out there
This law
That's
also caps and won't even go
watching
into effect
this
until
watching me
2025.
look at
Costs,
this,
out-of-pocket drug costs
and
for
you
seniors
see
on
half
Medicare
the room not
at a maximum of $2,000
rejoice
a
at
year.
whatever
you don't have to pay more than
gains have been
$2,000 a year,
made.
no matter how much
Do
your
you
drug
really
costs
think
are.
that side of the room
Because
is
you know
sensible?
why? You all know
It doesn't matter if
Many
they're
of you, like
adversaries
many of
in
my
one
family,
respect
have
or another.
cancer.
If something
You know
good
the
happens,
drugs can
shouldn't you
range from
applaud it?
10,
We've seen a couple
11,
of instances
14,
of that happening, but
$15,000 for the cancer drugs. If drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. We're finally giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices. Bringing down prescription drug costs doesn't just save seniors money, it cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars, by hundreds of billions of dollars. Because these
I
prescription
saw a
drugs
text that said that they were
are drugs
that
purchased
he's going to cut the
by
deficit in
Medicare
half,
to
by,
make,
like, the
keep their
end of this
commitment to
year.
the seniors.
and so
And
that's
guess what?
that's what he's
Instead of paying
proposing
$400 or
as a
$500
big
bucks
part
a
of it.
month, you're
Okay.
paying 15. That's a lot of savings for the federal government. And by the way, why would we want that? Now some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm not going to exaggerate.
How
It's
is he
threatening
going
to
make
repeal
these
the
things
Inflation
happen?
Reduction
I
Act.
don't.
As my
I mean,
coach,
all right, so the ability to
that's okay.
negotiate.
That's fair.
The,
As my
rate-
football
the
coach
rate
used
of
to
the
say, lots of
pharmaceuticals
luck
that are
in your
being given
senior
out
year.
through Medicare, because
Make no mistake, If you
Pause.
try anything to raise the cost of producing jobs, I will veto it. Look,
Okay. But yeah, so if you have a large group of people and they're able to negotiate for
I'm
the cost
pleased
of
to
drugs with
say
the drug companies,
that more
Germany
Americans
is a
have
great
health
example of
insurance now
this.
than
They
ever in
negotiate
A record 16 million
with
people
the
enrolled
pharmaceutical
in the
companies and
Affordable
get a
Care Act.
significantly
And
lower
thanks
cost
to
for
the law I
their
signed last
medication.
year,
And here it's
saving
just more
millions
expensive
are
because we
saving
don't do that.
$800 a year on their premiums. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. So my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent. Expand coverage of Medicaid.
Yeah, expand it all the way.
Look,
Everyone.
the Inflation Reduction Act is also the most
We're talking about
significant
people with
investment
insulin.
ever in climate
Maybe
change.
some of those people
Ever.
aren't type 1. Maybe they're type 2.
Lowering utility bills.
Maybe
Creating American jobs.
for some of them,
Leading the world to a clean energy future. I visited the devastating aftermath
better
of
eating
record
health
floods,
and
droughts,
health
storms, and
care
wildfires.
might lead to the fact
from
that
Arizona
they
to
won't
Mexico
have the
to
need
all
for
the way up
insulin.
to the
But
Canadian border.
another time.
More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters,
Kamala's getting
than
worked
the
out.
entire
Kamala is
state
getting
of
worked
Missouri. And we don't have global warming?
Probably
Not
got
a
strong
problem.
legs. Probably can kick
In
through
addition
a door.
to emergency recovery, from Puerto Rico to Florida to
I
Idaho,
I
we're
love
rebuilding for the long term. New electric
the
grids
expression.
that are able to weather major
She is
storms
working
and not
hard right
prevent
here.
those forest fires. Roads and water
The-
systems
the
will
sign
stand the
language
next
interpreter.
big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle
Sometimes they
charging
have a bad
stations
interpreter.
installed
I'm not
across the
necessarily
country
saying the White
by
House, but
tens
like,
of
you know,
thousands of IBW workers.
government broadcast.
And
They have a bad interpreter. They just
We're helping
I don't
families
know,
save
they-
more than
they just don't
$1,000 a year with tax credits
exude the energy.
to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy efficient
But
appliances.
she's good. She's good.
Historic conservation efforts to be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state.
That's right.
It's an existential threat.
That's right.
We have an obligation, not
That's
to
right.
ourselves, but to our children and grandchildren to confront it.
All future
I'm proud
humans,
of how,
trillions of
how
people.
America at last is stepping up to
America.
the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while.
Oh yeah.
Guess what?
Come
No,
on. Man.
we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to
I mean
finish the
that is
job.
a truth. Yes.
And we pay for these investments in our future by
we could
finally
move
making
faster.
the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. Just begin.
You know the Republicans don't like that. They will remain sacked.
Look, I'm a capitalist. I'm a capitalist, but pay your fair share.
Pay your dues.
I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair.
There he is. What? Joe's running for president. It's
Look.
good. He's running for president. He's absolutely
The
1 billion
idea
% running for president.
That in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%. That's less than a nurse pays. And let me be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny. But let's finish the job. There's more to do. We have to reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal for the billionaire minimum tax. You know, there's 1,000 billionaires in America. It's up from about 600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or firefighter.
This is true.
I mean it. Think about it.
This is true. But half the room is knocking
mean,
like a billionaire. The billionaire's tax? What is he talking about? Look at it. Look at it. All the
I
ones.
know you aren't enthusiastic
back
about
here.
that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits, record profits? Last year
He
they
can
made
smell the money. He can smell it.
$200 billion in the midst of a global energy
billion.
crisis. I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production. And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells, all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade. And that's going to exceed, and beyond that, we're going to need it. Production.
Well,
If they had, in fact,
I'm gonna give
invested
Joe
in the
points
production to
right
keep
there.
gas prices
Everybody
down. Instead,
laughed at him.
They used the record
but-
profits to buy back their own stock.
That's the right. That was the
rewarding
right
their CEOs
idea.
and shareholders.
That's the kind of timeline that I would
Corporations ought to
expect
do the right thing.
to try to phase out
That's why I
fossil
propose
fuels.
we quadruple the
Like,
tax
look,
on corporate
we
stock
said,
buybacks
hey,
and encourage
back in the day,
long-term investments.
moon way up there. We're gonna send people to
They'll
it.
still make
10 years.
considerable
That's
profit.
how long it's gonna take. He just said 10 years to get off of fossil fuel.
Let's
That's a
finish
go
the
to the
job
moon
and
level
close the
event
loopholes
times
allow
10.
very wealthy to avoid paying their taxes. Instead of cutting the number
He
of
should have
audits for wealthy
defended that.
taxpayers, I just signed a law to reduce the deficit
all
by
of those people laughing,
$114 billion
Ugh,
by
those are
cracking
the
down
people
on
that need
wealthy
to go.
tax
The
cheats.
people that are so hooked on the way
That's
things
being
were,
fiscally
they can't
responsible.
see the way things need to be right now. Because they're not
The
going to
last
pay
2
the
years,
penalty for any type of climate
My
costs
administration has cut the
that come
deficit by
down
more
the
than
line.
$1.7
They're not going to care about the people that
trillion
come after them either, even if they're
The largest
blood
deficit
relatives,
reduction in
because they
American
haven't thought
history.
about it.
Under the
Or
previous
maybe they thought about it
administration,
and they just don't care.
American deficit went up 4 years in a row.
Oh, deficit.
Because those record
talk about it.
deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one. They're the facts. Check it out. Check it out. How did Congress respond to that debt? They did the right thing. They lifted the debt ceiling 3 times without preconditions or crisis. They paid American bills to prevent an economic disaster to the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress to follow suit.
There should have been more of that.
Let's commit
Just
here tonight to the full faith and credit of the
go-
United States
go
of America
after 'em.
will never, ever be questioned.
You want to question
my-
whether or not
many-
that fact is
some of my
true?
Republican friends
That fact is
want to
true.
take the economy hostage. I get
People
it.
want to talk about
Unless I agree with their
Obama
economic
golfing.
plans.
Dude, Trump
All
golfed
of you at
all
home
the
should know
time.
what those plans are.
Do you remember how
Instead
much
of
he
making
charged the
wealthy pay
Secret
their fair
Service?
share, some Republicans, some Republicans
space in Trump
want
Tower
Medicare and Social Security
to protect
sunset.
him?
I'm not saying it's a majority.
I didn't hear what you said.
Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office.
Can you go back to slide?
I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress
Whoa,
doesn't
flat out
vote.
called him a liar. Look at that.
Well, I'm
Don't you
glad to
smile,
see
Joe?
No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look,
They're doing
Folks,
this. They're just doing this on
the
purpose.
idea is
He was on a
that
roll.
we're not going to be
And they're trying.
we're not going to be moved into being threatened
trying to rattle them.
default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks,
And just
folks, as we all apparently agree,
that's so crazy disrespectful.
Social Security and Medicare is off the books now.
There is
right? They're not
one
to be
person
stopped.
that speaks during this
All
whole
right.
thing, and that's this dude
I'm
right
ready.
here. That's who's
We
supposed
got
to speak.
unanimity.
You know, looking super lame back here.
Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are, let's stand up for seniors.
Yeah, you better stand up for seniors, McCarthy, in the back. You better stand up for seniors, Republicans, if you want to
Stand
get that
up and show
senior
them.
vote.
Will not cut Social Security.
Because
We will
they'll
not
vote
cut
you out.
Medicare.
I dare you. I dare anybody
Those
in the
benefits
room
belong to the
to
American
stay
people. They
seated on
earned
that
it.
one.
If anyone tries to cut
You're
Social
going to get
Security, which apparently
reelected.
no one's going to do, and if anyone tries to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I'll veto it. And look, I'm not going to allow them to be taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem. Next month, when I offer my fiscal plan, I ask my Republican friends to lay down their plan as well. I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that.
Yeah, now you got Kevin McCarthy in the back clapping super hard. But all the Republicans want to do
I can tell you.
is just use this as a gateway opportunity
I'm gonna show you is
to
gonna cut
force
the
out
deficit by another $2
whatever
trillion.
ideas should
And
actually
it
be
won't cut
involved
a single bit of
and insert
Medicare
whatever
or
they
Social
think.
Security. In fact, we're going to extend the Medicare Trust Fund at least 2 decades, because that's going to be the next argument. How do we keep it solvent, right? Well, we'll not raise tax on anyone making under 400 grand, but we'll pay for it the way we talked about tonight, by making sure that the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share. Look. Here's the deal. They aren't just taking advantage of the tax code. They're taking advantage of you, the American consumer.
Yes.
Here's my message to all
That's
of
true.
you out there. I have your back. We're already preventing Americans from receiving surprise medical bills, stopping $1 billion surprise bills per month so far. We're protecting
Listen,
seniors'
I know
life
people that
savings
work at insurance
by cracking
companies,
down on
health
nursing
insurance
homes
companies,
that
people
commit
that work in
fraud,
billing.
endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are
There's
not needed.
so many things that are
Millions
just
of
done
Americans can now save
vastly
thousands of dollars
incorrectly.
because they can
And
finally
people are
get a
charged,
hearing aid
and
over the counter without a
They're
prescription.
just kind of stuck with it.
Look, capitalism
Insurance is a problem.
without competition
Period.
is not capitalism.
Period.
It's extortion.
Shouldn't exist.
It's
It's a
exploitation.
whole industry that just shouldn't
Last
exist.
year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill to cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms from giving their own products an unfair advantage.
All right, so
My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. We've reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75%, from $30 to $8. Look,
listen,
junk fees.
some of that is good, but this
may
is not like
matter to very
the
wealthy, but
most
they matter to
upper
most
tier
other
stuff
folks
that
in
we need
homes
to be
like the
going
one I
after.
grew
This
up
is
in, like
more,
many of you did.
I don't know,
They add up to
mid-level
hundreds of dollars a month.
/ lower hanging
They
fruit.
make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip.
It's good that it's happening.
I know
I'm not
how
going to
unfair it
debate
feels
that.
when a company overcharges you and gets away with it. Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We're going to ban surprise resort fees that hotels charge on your bill. Those fees can cost you up to $90 a night at hotels.
What about the
that
people
aren't even
that can't go
resorts.
to the hotels to experience the resort fees?
The idea
the
that
resort
cable,
fees,
internet, and cell phone
that just
companies
feels like it's for
can charge you $200 or more.
a certain
if you decide
subset
to
of the
switch to another
country that is
provider.
experiencing a
Give me
better
a break.
reality than everybody else.
We can stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. And
Okay.
we'll prohibit airlines from charging $50
again,
round trip for
sporting
families
events.
just to be able to sit together. Baggage
That's a
fees
want,
are
not
bad
a
enough.
need. I want to hear
Airlines
more about the
can't
needs.
treat your
Give me the
child like
needs.
a piece of baggage. Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for suckers. So pass
Americans
Pass the Junk
as
Food
a whole
Prevention Act so
are
companies
played
stop
for
ripping us
suckers a
off.
lot.
For too long,
Pharmaceutical prices,
workers have been
yeah.
getting stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements.
Yeah,
with the
do
jobs
away
they
with
take.
all of
30
those.
million.
Those suck.
So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town and take the same job at another burger place and make a few bucks more.
I've never heard
They
of
just
a
changed it because we exposed it.
cashier
That
signing
was
a
part of the
non-compete.
deal,
Does that
guys.
happen?
Look it up. But not anymore.
I mean, I know
We're banning
non-competes
those
happen,
agreements,
but
so
I
companies
didn't
have
know
to
it was
compete
for
workers and pay
like
them what they're
Burger King.
worth.
That is insane. That's pretty vile if that is a thing. But I don't know. Gotta
And
look
I
at
must
that.
tell you, this is bound to get a response from my friends on my left but the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from organizing. Pass the PRO Act, because business have a right, workers have a right to form a union.
Yes, I will.
Let's
I will give
guarantee all workers
phenomenal
have a living
points on
wage.
that one. If
Let's make
you
sure
bring back the
working parents
unions,
can
you'll get a
afford to raise
lot
family
more
with
of
sick
the
days, paid family medical leave.
the things that people need
Affordable
in order to be
childcare.
human. Yeah, that's what he's talking about right here. Affordable child care.
That's going to enable millions of more people to go and stay at work. And let's restore the full child tax credit.
Full child
Gave
tax
tens of
credit.
millions
Yes,
of parents
bring
some
that
breathing
back.
room and cut child poverty in half to the lowest level in history.
I
And
have
by the
no
way,
idea
when we do all these
why
things,
they haven't done
we
that
increase
sooner, why
productivity.
they allowed
we
that to
increase
decrease.
economic growth. So let's finish
Again,
the
the
job.
Republicans.
To
I
get
don't
more families
love
access
the Democratic
to affordable
Party.
quality housing.
Just
Let's
so
get
you know,
seniors
I
who wanna
just
stay
know
in their
the
homes,
things
the care
that the
they need to do
Republicans get
so.
in the way of.
Let's
And
give
it's
more
a lot of
breathing room to
things.
millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones. Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are
That's
doing
big.
God's work.
That's really big. And for those of you that don't
These plans
really
are fully paid for, and we can
know
afford to
that
do them.
world of
Restoring
the
dignity of
elderly
work
and
means
what they
making
go
education
through,
an affordable
it's
ticket
a
to the
mixed
middle
bag,
class.
and it's some
You know,
sad
when we
stories
made
in
public
that
education,
bag.
12 years of it universal in the last century. We made the best educated, best paid. We became the best educated, best paid nation in the world.
Best
the rest of the world's
best
caught up.
educated.
It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who
Ah.
teaches full time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to outcompete us.
Yes.
Any nation that out-educates is going to outcompete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of 21st century. We want to have the best educated workforce. Let's finish the job.
Let's actually
By
start
providing
the job.
access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old.
Okay.
Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly
But what about the places that
50%
are
more likely to
lacking
finish high school and
teachers?
go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from. Let's give public school teachers a raise.
Yes. Big one. Big raise. Give public school teachers a big fucking raise. They need it.
We're making
It's
progress.
the only way to get quality
by
teachers
reducing student
or
debt,
encourage
increasing Pell
teachers
Grants
to
for
really,
working in middle-class families.
get
Let's
after
finish
it.
the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in
But
high
I just
school.
hope it's not garbage.
Provide
Like
access
he's
to
like,
2
oh,
years
let's
of community
raise it.
college.
And it only raises like
the best
5%.
career training in
Oh,
America, in
raise it
addition to
5%.
being
Great.
a pathway
You should
to
be
a
happy.
4-year degree.
Keep paying for your kids'
Let's offer
pencils.
every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not.
Yeah, give that's
Folks.
funny. Give teachers a raise so they can finally
Folks, in the
break
midst of
even.
the COVID crisis, when schools were closed,
All that money that they've poured into those kids over the years. Yeah, you got
we
to
were shutting
pay
down
them back
everything.
for some of that stuff.
let's
right?
recognize how
Right?
far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone, thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, we've broken the COVID grip on us. COVID deaths are down by 90%. We've saved millions of lives and opened up our country. We opened our country back up, and soon we'll end the public health emergency. But
These
That's
people that
called
just
public
shout
health
things out,
emergency.
they just need to go somewhere.
But
End
we'll
the
remember
mandate.
the toll and pain that's never going to go away. More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. 1 million. Families grieving. Children orphaned.
That's right. They are not going
Empty
to
chairs at the
continue
dining room
to
table
cover the
constantly
vaccine.
reminding you
This is true.
that she used to sit there.
And I know some of you out
Remembering
there are
them.
just like, hey, COVID's over.
We remain
And
vigilant.
for you, maybe.
We still need to monitor
but for a
dozens of
lot of
variants and
people,
support new vaccines and
specifically
treatments.
the immunocompromised
So Congress needs to fund
community,
these efforts and keep America safe.
it's not over by
And
any
as
stretch.
we
And
emerge from
vaccines
this
will be over
crisis-
$100. So
Stronger. We're
Putting it
also
out
got to
there.
double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat.
oh yeah, throw away the key on them. I was gonna say, throw away the key for them for sure. They need to go. They suck. The garbage humans.
Before I came to office, you remember, during that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people.
Yeah.
And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters.
It really does matter.
Look,
there are so many
COVID
YouTube
left us
channels out there
scars.
that just talk about
like the spike in violent crime in 2020.
People sometimes
of the
domestic,
pandemic.
but most of the times overseas.
We have an
that just
obligation to
scam
make
the
sure
elderly,
all people are
like
safe.
super hard.
Public safety
And
depends
it's
on
terrible.
public trust, as
People
all
fall
of us
victim to
know.
that stuff left and right.
But too
It should
often that
stop.
trust is violated.
Yes.
Join us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome.
Again, set pieces.
We had to bury Tyree last week. As many of you personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child.
What's going to
But
change?
imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law. Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street,
Right,
playing
but
in the
what's going
park,
to
or just
change?
driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children. I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car. Here's what Tyree's mother shared with me when I spoke to her. When I asked her how she
What does he
finds
know
the
about
courage
that?
to carry on and speak out.
It looked like he was
The faith of
reciting
God,
something
she
that
said her
was
son
memorized,
was, quote,
that was given
a
to him.
beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes. It's up to us, to all of us. We all want the same thing. Neighborhoods free of violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Just as every cop, when they pin on that badge in the morning, has a right to be able to go home at night, so does everybody else out there. Our children have a right to come home safely. Equal protection under the law is a covenant we have with each other in America.
What are the actions that
We
are
know
going to take place
Police
that
officers put their
will
lives on the line every
reduce
single
or
night and
prevent
day.
this moving forward?
And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. But they risk.
I'm not going to disagree with that. My own personal engagement encounters with the police
And they risk their
have
lives
been above board.
every time they put that shield on.
But I know it's not like that
What
everywhere.
happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often. We have to do better. Give
And I
law
don't
enforcement
know.
the real
Perhaps-
training they need.
I
Hold
mean,
them to higher
in
standards.
my state, this stuff happens.
Help them succeed in keeping us safe. We also need more first responders and professionals to address the growing mental health, substance abuse challenges. More resources to reduce violent crime and gun crime. More community intervention programs.
I want more specifics.
More investment in housing, education, and job
I'm not
training.
just saying that there should be more, but how do we get more? It
All
seems like
this
everybody's standing.
can help prevent violence in the first place. And when police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable.
That is true.
With the support,
They should be punished more harshly than just whatever the crime
With the
normally
support
would call for. 100% agree.
of the
with
families of victims, civil rights groups, and law enforcement, I signed an executive order for all federal officers banning chokeholds, restricting no-knock warrants, and other key elements of the George Floyd Act. Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this. Something good. And all of us,
Specifics.
all of us,
I just want specifics. I want you to tell the specifics. Don't just point to them and just say, hey, this is sad. We should stop. That's what people always do. There's always the parents of someone
Folks,
that's
it's
been lost
difficult,
in
but it's simple.
a conflict that shouldn't have happened, whether it be war,
we need
crime.
to rise to this moment. We can't turn away. Let's do what we know in our hearts that we need to do. Let's come together to finish the job on police reform. Do something. Do something. That was the plea of parents who lost their children in Uvalde. I met with every one of them. Do something about gun violence. Thank God. Thank God we did. Passing the most
What?
sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades.
Okay. Did that
includes
stop
things
the
like
60-year-old
that the majority
in
of
Virginia from
responsible
blowing
gun
off the
owners
teacher's
already
face
support.
recently?
Enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Red flag laws. Keeping
I mean,
guns
yeah,
out
do
of the
all of
hands
these
of people
things.
who are
We
dangerous
must
to
do.
themselves and others.
Well, maybe I
But we
haven't
know our
heard
work is not
exactly
done.
Everything you said.
Join us tonight is Brandon Say, a 26-year-old hero. Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side. His mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon,
Smile and wave, Brandon. Smile and wave.
Brandon now works at a dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close, and he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestled a semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in another dance studio.
That is badass.
He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now. Once and for all. I led the
Listen,
fight
people are
do
going to have
that
the strong
in
opinions about this,
1994.
but
In 10 years, that
the
ban
slower
was
the
law,
guns
mass
fire
shootings
rate,
went
the
down.
slower you kill
After
people.
we
Like
let it
literally,
expire in the
it's a
Republican
direct.
administration, mass shootings tripled.
You can still
Let's
kill
finish the
people.
job
You
and
can
ban
have a
these
mass
assault
stabbing.
weapons.
You can have a mass
And let's also
fucking
come
weed
together on
whacking. But
immigration.
yeah, if you
Make
don't
it a
have like
bipartisan issue once again.
these infinite clips and these high-powered machines, these devices that can just obliterate.
We know
things
we now
way
have
tougher
a
than
record
you.
number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months.
Okay, those things are just
We've
going to
launched
happen.
a new
They're just going to
border
happen.
plan
But
last
what's
month.
the plan for all
Unlawful
of the
migration from
migrants
Cuba,
coming
Haiti,
to
Nicaragua,
the
and
border?
Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that. But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts.
That's
If
true.
we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers,
Not being sarcastic.
those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and the Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, for sure. But these clowns
Give every
that
woman
just
a
wanna
consular
shout
right.
out.
The
All
Vice
they're trying to
President and I are
do is
doing
just get
everything
some little
to protect access to
zinger
reproductive
that's going to be on
health
Twitter.
and safeguard patient safety. Well, already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. But let's also pass.
And Americans, if you don't vote for
Let's
the
also
people
pass
that
the
will
Bipartisan Equality
refrain
Act,
from doing
which
that,
LGBTQ
eventually there won't be a
Americans,
president to
especially
veto it,
transgender young
and it's
people,
just going to go
can
through.
live with safety and
Just-
dignity. Our
Just letting you
strength,
know.
our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching. I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world.
Look at all that metal.
Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty?
I'm very fearful that
we stand for the right of people to
it's
live
going
free of
to
tyranny.
be a
Would we
much
stand
larger
for the defense of democracy.
involvement in
For
Ukraine than
such
even
defense
we're
matters to us
experiencing right
because
now.
it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we
1
know
year
the
later,
answer.
we're willing to send tanks.
Yes, we would, and we did. We did.
We did send the tanks, or agree to send the tanks. They're not being sent yet.
Together,
Takes a
we did
long
what
time
America
for that
always
stuff
does
to
at our
move.
best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here. United, we're united in our support of your country.
Okay,
Will you
he's a little-
stand so we can all take
getting
a
a little
look at her?
shaky, but he's trying to get it back on the tracks.
Thank you.
We're just hitting all the high
We're going to
notes.
stand with you
It's kind of like when you go
as
to
long as it takes.
like a botanical gardens. All the plants.
Our nation is working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace.
The Ukrainian
Not just
conflict
in
is
Europe,
something
but
that should be
everywhere.
talked about, but it's
Before
got to
I
be talked
came
about in
to
a different
office, the
sense.
story was about
It's got to be talked
how
about
the
how do you
People's
end it,
Republic of
not
China
how
was
do you just
increasing
keep
its power.
pumping
America's failing in the world.
money
Not
and
anymore.
weapons into it.
We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies
Some people see those as
that
one
we're
and the same.
investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. And I'm committed I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world, but make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
Act to protect.
Look.
So the balloon floated
Let's be
over
clear.
the country.
Winning the competition
It
should
was in
unite
our
all.
sovereign airspace.
We face serious challenges
And
across the world.
they don't face
But in the past 2 years, democracy
any
has
type
become
of
stronger, not weaker.
repercussions.
Autocracy
It's
has
not gonna be
grown
a part
weaker,
of
not
this?
stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one. America's rallying the world to meet those challenges,
Yikes.
from climate to global health, to
Biden.
food insecurity, to terrorism, to
Man.
territorial aggression.
What type of
Allies are
serum
stepping up,
did they
spending more,
jab
and
into
doing
his
more.
neck?
Look,
He's going at Max
the bridges
Max
reform between
Biden
partners in the
speed.
Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who bet against America are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never. Well, when I came to office, most assured that bipartisanship assumed was impossible, but never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity agenda to the nation as I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough in the fights against cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and so much more. We passed the Heath Robinson PACT Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to
There's
toxic
so
burn
much
pits
more talked
I
about
shared here
for
last
these
year.
Smaller wins than there is a discussion of any of the real problems.
I understand
We're
something
just
about those burn
unwilling.
pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared the story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose, working to end the stigma and change laws. He told us he wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. Big, you got it. So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking.
Someone just
with
said
more
it's
drug
your
detection
fault.
machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder
It's your
at the border.
What do they even mean it's his fault?
Working with couriers like FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs.
I'm sorry, whoever said
Strong
that,
penalties to crack down on
garbage.
fentanyl trafficking.
100%
Second, let's do more
garbage.
mental health, especially
They're
for
just
our
trying
children.
to score points.
When
They should
millions
be
of young
kicked out
people
right
are
away.
struggling with bullying,
Losers.
violence, trauma, we owe them greater access to mental health care at their schools. We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing running children for profit. It's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online, ban targeted advertising to children, and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us.
Agreed.
Third, let's do more to keep this nation's one truly sacred obligation to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home. job training, job placement for veterans and their spouses as they come to
Yes, a
return to civilian
transition.
life. Helping veterans afford the rent, because
come on.
no one should be homeless in America, especially
I don't know
someone
how many
who
people
served the country.
would shit their pants if they saw half the things that these people that are fighting for our country see, defending our country, serving our country, and if anybody is unwilling to
Dennis
support
McDuck-
them once
Dennis McDonough
their
is here,
time doing
the
that
VA.
is done.
We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide.
I'm glad he
More
didn't,
than all the
like,
people being
just
killed in the wars.
make that seem like it was an improvement.
Folks,
I mean, it is an
VA is
improvement,
doing
but he
everything
didn't
it
try to
can,
like sell it as an
including
improvement.
expanding
It's still
mental health
something
screening,
serious to be focused on because
proven
17
programs that
is just a
recruits
crazy
veterans
number.
to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help
But
they
the number
need.
needs to be 0,
We got to do more.
as close to 0
fourth,
as humanly possible.
Last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years. Turn more cancers from death sentences to treatable diseases. Provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice,
Set
an
pieces.
Irishman and a daughter of immigrants from Panama. They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter,
She
Amy,
wasn't really feeling it.
and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl. It meant everything to them. They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month. They just found out Ava's beating the odds, is on her way to being cured of cancer. And she's watching from the White House tonight and she's not asleep already. For the lives we can save. For the lives we can save and the lives we've lost, let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together and proves that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR to transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS. It's been a huge success. He thought big. He thought large.
Here's
He
one.
moved.
The
I believe we can do the
Living
same thing
Donor
with cancer.
Protection Act. So this is something that is out there that Congress could
Let's end cancer as we know
vote
it.
on.
Cure
Biden
some
could sign into
cancers
law.
and
Basically,
for
it allows for greater access
Folks,
and fewer barriers.
One reason why we've been able to do all of these
between,
things,
receiving a
our
transplant.
democracy itself.
There,
the most
there are tons of
fundamental
people
thing of
out there
all.
that are waiting for
With
a
democracy,
kidney transplant.
everything's possible.
I'm
Without
looking
it,
right over here
nothing is.
at some facts
The last
about
few years,
the
our democracy has
legislation.
been threatened and
And so
attacked,
nearly 100
put at risk,
thousand people
put to the
are on the
test
wait list for
in this
a
very
kidney
room on
transplant,
January the 6th.
and nearly 4,000
And then just a
people
few months ago,
died in 2016
an unhinged,
before ever receiving a
big
kidney
lie.
transplant.
Assailant unleashed a political
I'm not saying
violence
you can't
home of the then
talk
Speaker of the
about
House of
every single
Representatives.
tragedy that's
Using the
happening in
very
the state of
same
the union.
language the
That's a
insurrectionists
pretty large
used
number of people.
As they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th. Here tonight in this chamber is a man who bears the scars of that brutal attack, but is as tough and as strong, as resilient as they get. my friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up.
It was wrong, though, for someone to try to attack someone in their home. I don't care who you are. But
such a heinous act should have never happened.
We
must all speak out.
But
there's no
when
place
people
for political violence in
are
America.
squeezed
We
quite a
have to protect
bit
the right
and
to vote, not
manipulated
suppress the
even
fat
more
fundamental
so,
right. Honor the
they're going to do
results of our
crazy
elections, not
things.
subvert the will of
So
the people.
why not rein
We have to
in,
uphold the rule of law and
you know,
restore trust in our institutions of democracy.
Okay, truth.
We
I
must
was
give
about to say
hate
truth.
and extremism
Facts.
in any form no safe harbor.
So you got to protect institutions. Yes. Unless the
Democracy
institutions are failing us,
must not
Then
be
they
a
can,
partisan issue.
they have to
It's
evolve.
an American issue. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have been called to protect our democracy, defend it, stand up for it. And this is our moment. My fellow Americans, we meet tonight at an inflection point, one of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we the people. We're facing the test of our time. We have to be the nation we've always been at our best, optimistic, hopeful, forward-looking. A nation that embraces light over dark, hope over fear, unity over division, stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. We're good people. The only nation in the world built on an idea, the only one. Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity.
I wonder what gets said
the
to the
only nation
Republicans
based on
that
an
stand
idea.
up and clap for things that everybody
all of
else
us.
sits down for.
Every one of us is created equal in the image of God. A nation that stands as a beacon to the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is
This is
strong,
how he's
because the
getting around
people
it.
of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong.
What is that? Because the people are strong, the State of the Union is strong. Yeah. Yes, it is a government by the people, but that's not the way you measure this, right?
I'm not new to this place.
Our spirit
I
is
stand
strong,
here
so
tonight,
the State
having
of the
served as long as
Union
about
is
any
strong.
one of you have ever served here. But I've
crack your
never
jokes
been more
again?
optimistic
Okay.
about our future, about the future of America. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And
I
there's
think the
nothing-
country does
nothing beyond our
remember who it
capacity
is.
if we do it
That's the-
together.
that might be
God
part of
bless
the
you all,
problem.
and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Alrighty. So, that was the State of the Union, folks. I wonder what you all think about it. As far as my opinions, I felt like there were a few good moments or good topics, things that were discussed. And I mentioned it as, it was going on, the negotiating the prescription drugs, the wanting to bring back the full child tax credit, but that's something that Congress is going to have to do. And this dude over here, he's not doing that. He's not going to bring back the child tax credit. So Biden scored his points with that, but in the end, children aren't really going to benefit in the way that they should, in the way that was originally intended. So yeah, the semiconductors, the CHIPS Act, yes, that is all good. But again, all it's going to lead to is exploitation of developing countries for their raw materials. A tale as old as time, and people are looking at Africa again for resources. The Chinese have been doing that for some time, giving large loans in order to build infrastructure. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I don't think that the raises that the teachers are going to get are going to be anywhere near what they should be. It's just going to be a little token gesture. And the Republicans do speak after this. I should probably see if I can find that. I don't know. It's about to pop up here. I just got this new keyboard and I like it, but it's kind of hard a little bit to hit the buttons cleanly without catching other buttons, other keys rather. To the State of the Union and Republican response. All right, so it looks like they're still closing out the State of the Union. We'll just keep it on good old C-SPAN right here. But yeah, what do you think? You think he did a good job for this speech? Do you think he's doing a good job in general? There are a few points where you could argue yes, but I don't know. He talked about incremental to moderately large changes when we need titanic changes. He said some things like, about banning assault weapons, which were very definitive, but then there were so many things that were just not. There were no specifics to anything. There was no plan that was laid out. There was no instructions for what we should do. I just don't get it. Climate, there should be instructions for each and every one of us as to what we should do, and it should be on television regularly, because the world's population is at 8 billion people. Yeah, if you can get individuals to start helping out in day-to-day ways that can improve our climate situation on the planet, that might be good. Man, they take so long to walk in and out of rooms. But I would love to see the Republican rebuttal. But I think everyone's going to clear out of here first. Let's see if we have any interesting sound. If not, then we'll too big to him.
Sorry you guys had to sit there. I apologize.
Listen to a little bit more of this. I don't really think anything important is going to be said. In fact, let me just turn this down a little bit. Keep them in the background. All right. I'm just going to turn that back down. Yeah, I don't think he should run for president again. Sorry. It's just not enough. There were so many points where people were laughing because they thought the things he was saying was a joke, and he wasn't trying to tell a joke. That's a huge problem. He doesn't command the respect of half of the people in the room. And when I say command respect, I don't mean the showy stuff that happens like here, where, he goes up to Kevin McCarthy and they exchange pleasantries and they're laughing about stuff. That's just optics. That's just to make people think a certain thing is happening. The country is going well, when in reality, there's a contingent, a wing of the Republican Party that just wants to just tear this country apart. And then there's also a wing of the Democratic Party that just wants to tear this country apart in different ways. But, there are a lot of people that just don't respect him. And he's wanted to be president his whole life, and now he's president. And the things he said during the State of the Union, a lot of them were good, but it always sounds good, doesn't it? When someone promises you the things that should happen, and, whether they do it or not, it's never to the degree that it should be. We don't really fix the problems. He was talking about, generations of people to come. It's bigger than that. Even thinking like that is thinking too small. Because he did make a point that I don't know if it was him that made a point. Maybe I heard it somewhere else. I don't know. All of us living right now, all of us alive right now, have this amazingly incredible duty to all of the people in the future. It's like if we have the car for a little bit, and then we finally hand the car over to future humans. Yeah. We want to make sure that the car is in good shape. We don't want to, ding it up. We want to make sure we changed the oil, that it was inspected. But we also have to think that it's not just going to be the grandchildren that are driving the car. It's going to be the people an eon later. There will be trillions of humans to come and go. Hopefully, if we don't, screw ourselves over into extinction. Let's see. This is still going on. Yeah, this is supposed to be given the Republican response to, so still just waiting on that. I did not, in my OBS, make a window for just this screen, so I can just put it on for you. And I can't really make one on the fly right now without changing this screen, so I'm just going to leave it. I wonder how much longer he can go before, whatever they gave him just wears off, if it hasn't already. Might as well turn it back up.
It's transformation.
And by the way, just don't tell the guy from West Virginia that. I've got one too.
I understand. There's 10. There's 10. It's a pleasure always. You too, sir. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Ready to go.
By the way, every time I see this guy, I wonder who his haberdasher is. I want to know where he gets his suits. How are you?
You made us
you. We're getting our picture taken. We got a first-rate photographer.
It's kind of like he's on a bit of an autopilot, isn't it?
All right.
And you have to be, to a degree. You've got a lot of people that you're talking to. You can't.
Well, you're trying to say that. I was worried it was just too long.
But he looks away as he's saying the last thing to people. But he looks away from them in the direction that he's going to.
We really can do so much of the focus.
I can't even imagine the stress and the mental weight that gets put on a person that is the president of the United States, and I can't even imagine what it would be like if you're in the end stages of your life, and you got all of this stuff that you're, all the cameras, the lights, the people.
It's magnificent. I used to live in Garden City.
It's a little bit west of me, sir, but you're welcome back anytime. Nope, all good.
All the people sucking up.
This was a bring-it-on speech. I'm going to run across America with this speech and this thing about American progress.
That is a jacket she's got on right there. That jacket is.
I think so too. I'm
love
praying
it.
for
Look
it
at him,
because
looking
it's
away.
opportunity.
We're going to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words.
God, jeez. It just doesn't look that great when he does it, does it?
And I know that they're really going to appreciate
He's here, he's with the person.
District is clear.
Wait for it.
District of Colorado, those northeast suburbs of Denver. Those
Northeast.
are really
Northeast, and he is
I'm just getting this.
done.
Getting this selfie, please.
Oh, she's going back for the selfie.
I think I got, Then I get it.
Hit it again.
There you go.
Oh, I'm busy.
Joe's teaching how to use the phone.
She's
Something.
trying to make me feel good. She erased it.
Great speech. I really appreciate you taking so much time. That meeting was tremendous. We're grateful. Thank you so much for taking the center.
Republican response.
We got to reauthorize it this year. So.
Right. I mean,
Madam President, that was
The rebuttal is happening tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, yeah, smart on the Republicans to do that way. I mean, that's probably the way that's normally done, but at least it gives you time to digest and strategize, and they're going to find ways to just pick everything that he just said apart. So, more on that tomorrow. Anyway, I appreciate you watching, whether it's now or in the future. But, yeah, I really just want us to pick a better leader overall, and also people in Congress, pick better people overall that are actually going to work together toward the common good, to pass laws, and not just obstruct everything. I just hate that. The people that just want to just halt everything that the government tries to do in order to, I don't know, I'm just kind of more on the Republicans' response later. Leave a question or a comment if you have anything for this. If you thought he did a good job, thought he did a terrible job, if you noticed something that I didn't. And yeah, we'll just leave it there. Anyway, peace.